I built this fully automated AI crypto trading app using just Lovable and N8N. All you have to do is type in the coin you want to trade, and the app takes care of the rest. It instantly checks the latest prices for that specific coin across 4 different time frames and also scrapes all the latest crypto news from the past 3 days. Then an AI agent processes all of this data, runs it through some of the most popular trading indicators and gives you both a short-term and a long-term recommendation, your stop loss level and your take profit target. Plus, it even gives you a fully detailed explanation of the trade, and all that in less than 10 seconds, making it faster and more accurate than the world's best traders. The best part, you can easily sell this app to crypto traders for thousands of dollars, since it will help them make better trades and make significantly more money. And in this video I will show you exactly how you can build this app, step by step, so by the end you can have it up and running in your own workspace. So let's get started. Now the first thing that we have to do is to build the front-end interface of our app. So to build this app I will simply come over here and type create a crypto trading app. The user should be able to input the coin that he wants to trade with in a simple text prompt, and then the app will go and give him some suggestions about what trade he should make. And then guys, I specifically tell you to do not do any of the backend functions, because I will do all of them with N8N. And it's actually very important for me to say that, because if I do not tell Lovable to not do any of the backend functions, it will actually go and try to build the backend of the app as well, which for a pretty complex app like this is not going to be able to do, and then we will have problems where we're trying to connect it with N8N. So that's why it's very important to specify to don't try to build any of the backend. And then I tell it, you just focus on building a nice looking UI. Make it dark, modern, with nice sharp colors, just like this example. And now what I will do guys, I will go over to Google and search for a nice looking UI, simply find one that I like. Let's say I like this one for example, and now all I will do is I will simply come over here and download it, and then come back over to Lovable, come over here and click on attach, upload the design I just found and simply click on enter. This way Lovable also has a visual example of exactly how I want the app to look like, making it more likely to create a design that I actually like. But while Lovable is building the front-end interface of our app, let's go over to N8N and start building the backend. So now I came over to N8N and I created a brand new workflow, and now the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and add in a trigger. So to do that we will simply come over here and click, and now we will search for a webhook node guys. And the reason we're choosing a webhook and not any other trigger is because a webhook actually allows us to connect the front-end interface we're building right now in Lovable to the backend automation we're going to build over in N8N. So that's why I'm choosing a webhook. And now you see this settings tab over here, the only change we have to make is we have to come over here in the HTTP request and change it from get over to post. And now all we have to do is to simply come over here and click on this post URL. And we did that because we're going to send over a post request and not a get request over to Lovable, because that is how we're able to send data back and forth. So now all you have to do is to come over here and click on this link, which actually copies it in your keyboard. And if I come back over to Lovable, where we can see it actually finished generating the app, and I gotta admit it does look very good. And it has a bunch of fake data over here. We will obviously make this show actual data, but we'll do this later on. For now, let's first connect it with the backend automation we have in N8N. So to do that, we simply have to come over here in the Lovable chat and simply say, make sure all the data I input, you send it over to this webhook URL. And now guys, what I will do is I will come over here and paste in the webhook URL I just copied. But then I also told it, also make sure the user specifies what he's trading with. For example, BTC, and he also types in USDT if he's actually trading in the BTC USDT section. Because if he does not input the USDT part, the app cannot work. And you will understand why in a bit when we start building the backend in N8N. But for now, make sure you actually specify that to Lovable, and then simply come over here and click on enter. And now Lovable is actually going to take the webhook URL we just gave it, embed it inside our app. So every time we come over here and we type in the coin that we want to trade, it actually sends all this information back in our N8N interface. And boom guys, Lovable just finished making all the changes. So now it's time we actually test it. So to do that, I will simply come over here and let's say we actually want to trade BTC USDT for example. But before we come over here and click on analyze BTC, we have to come back over to N8N and make sure we click on listen for test event in our webhook, because if we do not actually click this, the webhook is not going to expect to receive data and the request is going to fail. So make sure you actually click that first, and then you can come back over to Lovable and come over here and click on analyze BTC. And as you can see, the analysis has started. And if I actually come back over to N8N, we can see that we do have an output over here to the right, which means that we have successfully managed to connect our front-end interface in Lovable with the backend in N8N. So now what I will do, guys, is I will come over here and pin this data so I don't have to rerun this again if something goes wrong. And if I actually scroll all the way down here, guys, you can see that over here in the body parameters we can see exactly what we just typed, which is BTC USDT. And now you might say, but Damien, why do we need this in this exact format? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because we're going to need this in order for us to retrieve all the information about the price. And how we're going to do that is by using the Binance API, which what the Binance API allows us to do, guys, is basically allows us to use Binance's service in order for us to check the current prices of the specific coin that we're trading, which in our case is Bitcoin right now, in basically any time frame we want. So let's actually go and set this up. Now for this example, we're actually going to do 4 time frames. We're going to do the 15-minute time frame, the 1-hour time frame, the 1-day time frame, and the 1-month time frame, which is something more long term, we would say. So let's actually go and set all these 4 time frames up. And how we're going to do that is by coming over here, clicking on the plus icon, searching for an HTTP request. And the reason we're searching for an HTTP request is because this is how we're going to be able to access Binance's API. Now how you can do that is you could go over to Binance's docs and follow the instructions over here, but I do gotta admit, they're not that helpful and they're very complex. So I actually found a way easier solution. You can simply come over to ChatGPT and tell it, give me the HTTP endpoint for Binance's API to check the price for 15 minutes, and simply click on enter. And ChatGPT will literally give you the URL that you need to hit without you having to navigate the pretty complex Binance docs. As you can see, this is an example request, so all we have to do is to simply come over here and copy this, and then we will simply come back over to N8N, come over here in the URL, simply paste this in over here, and then we will come open this up to make an expression, and I will actually open this up so you can take a better look at it. And as you can see, we have this URL over here. First of all, we need to remove this get, so make sure it is actually starting with HTTPS. And then what we need to do is to simply come over here and you see we have BTC USDT, which in our case is the crypto that we actually want to take a look at. But in our interface, maybe we inputted Ethereum, or we put it Solana or a different crypto. So how we're going to make this change every time we input a different crypto in a Lovable interface is by using a schema variable. And if you remember, if I scroll all the way down here to the webhook, here we have the schema that includes the specific crypto we want to look for. So all we have to do is to come over here, delete this part, simply taking the bar schema, drag and drop it over here to the exact place that we just deleted, the BTC USDT. And now we'll simply input it over here. And if I actually close this and I come over here and click on execute tab, and you can see, guys, that we do have an output over here, which means that we have successfully managed to retrieve all the data we wanted for the 15 minutes. I will show you exactly what this data is in a bit, but first let's retrieve the data from all the other 3 time frames as well. So what I will do right now is I will simply close this off, and I will actually come over here and add in an aggregate node. And the reason I'm doing this, guys, it's not like mandatory, but it will make our job way easier. This will basically be able to take in all this data and put it inside one array so we can more easily use it later. So I will simply come over here and change this from individual fields to all item data into a single list, because that's what we want to do. We want to take all of these items and put them inside one array. I will name this data 1, for example, and if I come over here and click on X, you can see that this basically inputs all of this data that we have over here inside one array, so we can more easily use it later on. Now what we need to do is to also take in the data from the other 3 time frames. So to do that, we again come over here, search for an HTTP request, we simply select it, and again we need to input the URL over here. So we come back over to ChatGPT and we simply say, now give me the URL for 60 minutes, and simply click on enter. And now ChatGPT will literally give you this URL without you having to go and search for it. And now all we do over here is we simply come over here and we copy this. We come back over here, we paste it in, and let's turn this into an expression. And again, we'll do the exact same thing, guys. First of all, we come over here and delete the get. We want the URL to actually start with HTTPS. And then we'll come over here to where you see Ethereum USDT, simply delete it, and go all the way over here in a webhook to where we have our body parameter, and simply take it and drag and drop it in this exact place over here. So now that we did that as well, we'll simply close this off. And again, we will come over here and add in an aggregate node. I can come and open this up and I will see all this data over here. Again, I will come over here and change this to all item data, and I will simply name this data 2 so we actually know it's different. And I will click on execute tab, and boom, this inputs all of this data inside this array. Great. And now we basically will do the exact same thing with the other 2 time periods, which are the 1 day and the 1 month. So I will come over here again and add in another HTTP request. Let me also bring this over here so we have them a little bit better organized. I will open it up. We need to get this URL. So again, we come back over to ChatGPT and we will say, now give me the URL for 24 hours. Simply click on enter and boom, this gives us the URL. So all we have to do is to simply come over here. I will copy it this way this time so I don't actually copy the get. I will come back over here, paste it in, turn this into an expression, open this up. I will locate the Ethereum USDT as it is over here, simply delete it, come over here my webhook, find my specific coin which is BTC, and I will simply bring this over here and paste it in over here. Now I will simply close this off. Let me execute the step again. You can see that we have successfully retrieved all the data for the 1 day time frame as well. Now we'll simply come over here and add in another aggregate node. So you're basically seeing that we're doing the exact same thing. I will come over here, I will name this data 3 this time, and I will click on execute step. Great, we have inputted all this data inside an array, and now we will do the exact same thing one final time. So I will come over here, search for an HTTP request. Again, we need to hit the URL. And we will come back over to ChatGPT. We will say, give me the URL for 1 month. We will click on enter. And boom, this gives us the URL. So I will simply come over here, copy it, come back over here, paste it in, turn this into an expression, open this up. I will simply come locate the BTC USDT over here, delete it. Let me also delete the T because I actually forgot it. I will come over here my webhook, take in my coin schema and drag and drop it over here. Great. So now if I actually come over here and execute this, you will see that we have successfully gotten the data for each day of the month. And now if I actually come close this off, I will add in my last aggregate node over here. So I'll simply select it, change this to all item data, and I will name this to data 4. And I'll click on the execute step. And boom, we have successfully inputted all this data inside the arrays, which is exactly what we wanted. So now what we need to do, since we have retrieved all the information about the price in the 4 specific time frames, which are 15 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, and 1 month, now what we need to do is to also scrape some crypto news from the last 3 days, for example, because we all know that crypto news actually really do move the market significantly. So our AI agent also needs to have access to this as well in order for it to be able to give us a correct trade. We're going to come over here and click on the plus icon. And we're going to search for another HTTP request. We're not going to hit Binance's API. We're actually going to hit another third-party API tool that basically allows us to scrape the latest news. And that third-party API tool is News API, which is a completely free service that basically allows us to see all the latest news for a specific query that we want and take in all the information that is inside them, so then we can use it in our automation. You will simply have to go over to newsapi.org. I will leave a link for it in the description below, and come over here and click on get API key. Then you will need to create a brand new account. I have already created mine. And then you will need to come over here and click on documentation, and this will open up the docs. Now do not get worried by this interface, guys. This is actually super simple to navigate. All you have to do is make sure you come over here and click on searching for news articles, and this will bring you over here to where you will be able to see this example request which has a CURL. Copy this small snippet of code which is the CURL, and then you will come back over to N8N, click on import CURL, simply paste in the snippet of code you just copied and click on import. And what this does, guys, is it basically populates almost all the settings for us, so we basically don't have to do a lot of the work. This filled in the URL, the method, a bunch of query parameters over here, which is exactly what we wanted. Now we do need to make some very small changes. The first change we need to make is over here in the name. We actually need to tell it what we want it to search for. Since we're searching for news in the crypto space, I will simply come over here and say crypto or with caps, because that's how the documentation actually says type it, and I will also type in Bitcoin. And what you can also do is type in another or, just so you're better equipped, and simply scroll all the way down here in the webhook, take in the coin that you're searching for specifically, and drag and drop it over here, which I cannot actually do right now because I have not turned this into an expression. So let me actually turn it, and then I will take in the coin and drag and drop it over here, so it also has access to that. What that basically means, guys, is this will search for articles that are about crypto, Bitcoin, or the specific coin that we're searching for right now, and retrieve all the relevant information. Then over here we have another query parameter which is called from, where we basically need to input how many days before we want to scrape information, because right now it is set on only the current date. But we obviously do not want to leave it that way because we want it to be for the past 3 days. You simply have to come over here, turn this into an expression, simply delete this and type in this thing. What this basically says is the current date minus 3 days. So basically 3 days before the current moment right now. And this constantly changes, guys. Unlike what we had before, if 1 day or 2 days pass, this is actually going to update and it will always be 3 days before the current time right now. And if you're wondering how I actually came up with this, I basically told ChatGPT exactly what I wanted to do and told it to give me JSON. And that's what it gave me. So you can pause the video and copy it exactly as it is if you want. Then over here in the source bar, you leave this on popularity. And over here in the API key, you simply need to input your API key. Now this is going to be empty on your side, and how you're going to be able to find your API key is by simply coming back over to News API and coming over here and clicking on Get API Key. This will actually prompt you to create an account. Since I have already created my account, I have my API key over here, so I will simply come and copy this and I will come back and paste it over here. So now we're done configuring this node, and all we have to do is to simply come over here and click on Execute Step, and boom, you can see this executed successfully and actually retrieve a bunch of articles, as you can see over here, with a bunch of information about relevant crypto news that happened in the last 3 days. And as you can see, there are a lot of articles, like look how far I'm scrolling and it's like not ending. So that is very good news, because we will need all this information to give it to our AI agent so it can make a correct decision. But as you can see, this data is very messy and it's not going to be easy to use at all. So we actually need to transform it. And how we're going to be able to do this, guys, is by coming over here and adding in a split out node. And what this node will enable us to do, guys, is basically extract the schemas that are inside the array that score articles and simply put them in simple schemas so we can actually use them later on. I will simply take in the array that is called articles and drag and drop it over here, and I will make sure I leave this on no other fields, and I will come over here and click on Execute Step. You can see that it's basically took in all these arrays over here and input them inside simple schemas so we can actually use it. And specifically what we need over here is this, guys, the content of each one of those articles that we scraped. Because, guys, we're going to use this content and we're going to feed it over to an LLM model. So that's why we'll actually come over here and search for an LLM chain. What an LLM chain is, it basically allows us to use any LLM model we want, but we can also use an output parser. So that's why I picked a basic LLM chain over a simple LLM like ChatGPT, for example. So the first thing that we have to do over here is to obviously configure it. So I will simply come over here and change this from connect to chat trigger node to define below, and this will open up the user message where we basically need to tell the AI what we wanted to do. So I will turn this into an expression and open this up so you guys can take a better look at it. And I will say, you are a highly intelligent and accurate sentiment analyzer specializing in cryptocurrency market. Analyze the sentiment of the provided text using a two-part approach. Short-term sentiment, so it basically will tell us what's happening in the short term at the crypto market. And over here I give it some instructions. You can pause the video and read them if you want. And then I also tell it to give us information about the long-term sentiment, which again I give it basically the same instructions. And then what I will do is I will come over here, and I need to show you this, taking this description and drag and drop it over here. This might seem correct, guys, but we're going to end up in a problem, because since this is a schema, this will make this LLM chain run a lot of times and input all the results inside one schema, which is not what we want, because we later want to feed this information over in our AI agent. So we basically only want this to run once. That's why I will actually come over here and delete this, and I will come close this off and come over here, break this up and add in an aggregate node in between those two. Because if I add in an aggregate node and I actually leave this on individual fields, and over here in the input name I will simply take in the content of the articles and drag and drop it over here, and I click on Execute Step, you can see that it's basically input them all in one single item, which means if we give this to an LLM, it will only run once and will only give us one output. Now that is a little bit more advanced to understand, but I think you will see it better once we actually give this information in our AI agent. Now we're simply making the sentiment analysis in a separate LLM, because if we give a bunch of information to our AI agent, we basically tell it do the sentiment analysis, also look at the prices, take in these indicators, and then give us a trade. This is way too much for a simple AI agent, and it will probably hallucinate and not give us a good result. That's why we're basically breaking the steps up, and we're using this LLM chain to basically make it easier for our AI agent to give us a better response. So now all I will do is I will come over here, take in the content array that I have, and simply drag and drop it over here. And now I will simply close this off and come over here and add in my LLM model, of course, because we do need to give it access to an LLM model. So I will personally select ChatGPT. You can obviously select each LLM model that you want. So I will simply select it. Over here, you need to select your ChatGPT credentials. Now, if you do not have credentials, all you have to do is to come over here, click on create new credential, and then you simply need to input your API key over here. Now, to find your API key, you need to go to platform/openai/API keys. I will leave a link for it in the description below, and then simply come over here, click on create new secret key. Then you need to give it a name. Let me name it crypto, for example, and then click on create secret key, and boom, this is your new API key. All you have to do is to come over here and copy it, and then come back over to N8N and simply paste it in over here in the API key section, and come over here, click on save, and boom, as you can see, credentials was successfully created. So now if I actually close this off, I can actually come over here and select my credentials. I will actually leave it on GPT 4.1 mini. You can obviously select each model you want. And now we can close this off, and the last thing we need to do over here is to open this up again and make sure we come over here and we require a specific output format, because what this does, guys, is it opens up this brand new option over here, which is an output parser. Because if we do not use an output parser, we're going to get an actual response from the LLM, but the way the data is going to be given to us is not going to be in a good format where we can use it in the future. That's why we're using an output parser. So I will simply come over here and select the structured output parser, and now this is the part where everyone loses their mind and they say, wow, this is code, I do not know how to code, I cannot actually do this. Well, guys, do not worry, you will not have to write any code. All you have to do is to simply come over here in the Ask AI assistant and simply tell it, I want JSON code for an output parser that outputs short-term analysis and long-term analysis. Give me the output JSON, and simply click on enter. You obviously do not have to do this in the AI assistant. You can do this in ChatGPT, in Claude, in whatever LLM model you want. You basically explain to the LLM exactly what you want. It will basically give you the code. So all you have to do is to come over here, copy it, and then come over here, delete the previous code, simply paste this one in. And now if I actually come over here and run this, you will see that it is actually running right now, and you will probably look inside the output parser in a bit, and boom, it just finished. And as you can see, it did look inside the output parser. If I actually open this up, we can see that we have the data very nicely structured. We can see a short-term analysis over here and a long-term analysis, which is data we can actually use, because if we do not use an output parser, we would basically have a massive block of text over here, and it would actually be very confusing. So that's why we're using an output parser. So now that we basically have all the information we actually need, we have the prices for all the time frames, and we also have gotten the information from the articles, and we have also analyzed them. It's time we actually create the third and final part of our automation, which is an AI agent, in which we will actually give it access to all this information and basically tell it to give us a recommendation about a trade we can do in the short term and the long term. So let's actually go and do that. We will come over here and change this from connect to chat trigger node to define below. And then over here in the user message, I will actually turn this into an expression and open this up so you guys can take a better look at it. We basically need to explain to the AI agent exactly what we wanted to do. So I will come over here and say, first we're going to start with this is for, and what we will do right now is we'll basically come over here in our webhook, find the schema that we have the coin that we're searching for, and drop this over here. So our AI agent has access to this. Now I know this is a very long prompt, and you see all of this and you're like intimidated. Do not worry, we'll go over all of this in a bit. Then I basically tell it, this is the analysis that I got from scraping the articles. And now what we need to do over here is close the webhook, because we do not need this right now. And we'll come over here to where we have the analysis, which is in the basic LLM chain. And we'll take in the short-term analysis, drag and drop it over here, so it also has access to that. And then we'll take the long-term analysis and drag and drop it over here, so it also has access to that. And you guys can see why splitting these two up was actually very useful for this moment exactly. Then I say, here is all the technical data, and here is the price for the last. And then I say 15 minutes. And what I did over here, guys, is I basically came over here in the aggregate node to where I have all the data. I actually need to come over here in the first one, and I simply took in the array that I had and dragged and dropped it over here. But you can see that this is actually different than the one I have above. So you might say, but Damian, why is this different? Well, it's actually the same data, guys. It's just displayed slightly different. Because if I come over here to the result, where we can see exactly what the AI agent sees, you can see in the first one that I had before, it inputs the data one underneath the other, while in the one that I just drag and dropped right now, it outputs the data one next to the other. So what that is, guys, is basically the same data, just displayed differently to slightly make it easier for the AI agent to understand it. Because if the AI agent sees the numbers like this, it might actually get slightly confused. That's why it's better to output one underneath the other, since these are different prices. They are not supposedly related to each other, if you get what I mean. And if you wonder how I came up with this string of code, I basically came over here in the AI assistant and I said, taking this schema, and what I did was basically taking the schema that I just drag and drop over here, which is normal, and I said, and stringlify it. What stringlify is, guys, is basically N8N showing the data in this format, one underneath the other, rather than one next to the other. So that's basically it. And I did that for all of these, for the 1 hour, for the 1 day, and for the 1 month. That's how you can do exactly the same. But if you do not want to do all of this and write this full prompt or build a whole automation, you can just simply click the link in the description, join my school community, where I have the template for this automation and every automation that I've built in my channel. So you can just simply download it, upload it over to N8N, so you basically won't have to build anything. But if you do not want to join, you can simply pause the video, take a screenshot of this, and simply tell ChatGPT to give you the text and simply copy and paste it over here. That also works. And I'm telling you that to save you time from manually trying to type this snippet of code yourself. As you can see, I did that for the 15 minutes, for the 1 hour, for the 1 day, and for the 1 month. And again, remember, we have all of this data inside each aggregate node. So for the 1 hour, I simply went in my second aggregate node, I took this, I dragged and dropped this, and then I told the AI to simply stringlify it. And I did the same for aggregate number 3 and aggregate number 4. Then, if we actually move underneath her, I said this is a JSON array where each element is a candlestick data object for a crypto asset. Then I told it the time frames, and then I said candles, an array of values in the following order, and then I basically told it what each one of these values actually mean. First we have the open time, then we have open, high, low, close, volume, etc. Again, you can pause the video, take a screenshot of it, give it to ChatGPT, and it will give you the text. Then I gave it some information about the sentiment data. I said, please perform the following steps: group the data, group the candlestick objects by time frame into groups, short-term data 15 minutes, medium-term data 1 hour, long-term 1 day, very long-term 1 month. Then I simply gave it instructions about how it should analyze it, the short-term analysis, the long-term analysis, and then I told it what action it should take, either buy, sell, or hold. Give me the entry price, stop loss, take profit, and the explanation why you did that. Then I gave it some more instructions. Again, I'm not going to read all of them. You can pause the video and read them. And then I also gave it some more instructions for leverage trading specifically. And then I basically told it the output format that I wanted to follow. That is basically everything. It just finishes with the output format. So now what we need to do is to simply close this since we finished configuring this. And we'll need to come over here and add in a chat model because we have not added one yet. So I will come over here, select OpenAI, again I will select my credentials, and now for the model I will actually leave this to GPT 4.1 mini, because if you choose a model that's not actually very fast, you will see, because this is a super long prompt inside the AI agent, that this is basically going to run for a long time and it's going to stop because it just ran for a very long time. Make sure you actually select GPT 4.1 mini, because this is a super fast AI model, and you will see that this will basically finish with the analysis in literally no time. So I would definitely suggest you to choose this model or any other model that's actually fast, it doesn't take a very long time. Definitely do not choose something like O3 over here. And then what you need to do is to come over here, close this off, and if we actually zoom, what's always good practice is come over here to the tool section, and since I'm coming over here searching for the think tool, what this tool basically does, guys, is it tells the AI agent to take a moment back and think a little bit more before it gives us the answer, which in turn makes it give us a better result. We do not need to change anything in the description here, because this description actually tells it to do exactly that. So I will close this off, and now what we need to do is to open up the AI agent and come over here and require a specific output format again, because we're going to use another output parser, again a structured output parser, so we actually get the data very nicely organized and we don't get a massive block of text which is going to be basically unusable. So for the JSON code over here, what you need to do is to delete the previous one, and what I did, guys, is I simply came over here, opened up my AI agent, opened up my prompt, and I scrolled all the way down here, guys, to where I have the specific output that I want. I simply took all of this, I made sure I copied, and then I came over in the AI assistant, basically pasted in and told it to give me valid JSON for an output like this, and just gave me the JSON which I actually copied, and I will simply come over here and paste it in. And you can see this is pretty long JSON because we do require a lot of different outputs. So now we have successfully managed to configure our AI agent. Let's make it look nice a little bit. And now it's time we actually execute it and see what trade our AI agent is going to tell us to make. So if we come over here and click on execute step, you can see that the AI agent has started to run. It is taking some time to think, as you can see it called the think tool. And boom, it just finished executing in only 28 seconds, which for a super long prompt like that, it's actually very fast, guys. If I actually open this up, you guys can see we have a very nice output over here, where it basically tells us the short-term trade that we need to do, which is to hold. This is the entry price, stop loss, take profit. Then over here we have the reasoning, some primary signals, some lagging indicators, and a sentiment analysis. And then over here we also have a long-term trade, which is to buy. This is the entry price, the stop loss, the take profit, and also the rationale over here with all the information we need. Plus, leverage recommendations, as you can see over here, to long, to use 3x leverage, entry price, stop loss, etc. Again, the reasoning, and also leverage information about the long-term trade, which is going to be 5x, etc. and also the reasoning, which is exactly what we wanted, guys. And you can see how valuable an app like this can be. But we're not done yet, because we simply need to return all this information back in our Lovable interface. And how we're gonna be able to do that is by coming over here and adding a respond to webhook node. And what we need to do is to come over here and change this from first incoming item to all incoming items, since we want to return all the data back into Lovable. But before I come over here and click on execute step, what I need to do is to close this off, and I actually need to come over here in my initial webhook, open it up, and come over here in the respond and change this from immediately to using a respond to webhook node, because if I do not actually make this change, this is not going to work. So now that I did that, I could come over here and click on respond to webhook, and this would actually send the data back into Lovable. But we have not told Lovable yet that it needs to expect to receive data, so nothing is going to be shown in the interface. So before I execute this step, I will actually come back over to Lovable and tell it, make sure you expect to receive data from the webhook URL, and you create a brand new section where you can display it. And I will click on enter, and now what Lovable will do is we will actually look for data that's coming from this webhook URL, and it will also create a brand new section where we can actually display it. And boom, guys, Lovable just finished making the changes. So now if I come back over to N8N, I come over here and click on respond to webhook, you can see that it did execute successfully. And if I actually open this up, we can see that it did send all this data back into Lovable. And boom, guys, if I come back over to Lovable and I scroll all the way down, we can see that N8N successfully sent all this data back in a Lovable interface. And you can see how it is being displayed over here in a very nice way. I can actually scroll down here and I can see the short-term position that we need to take, the entry, the stop loss, the take profit, and also the long-term position, the leverage, again the stop loss, the take profit, the position we need to take, the entry. And I also can see the market overview over here, plus the sentiment analysis, which also gives us a score and explains a bunch of things, and the analysis rationale section with a bunch of more information. Now if you want to learn the best methods to sell custom apps like that, you can click the link in the description and join my school community, in which I show you the 4 best methods for selling automations, which are by using Upwork, and where I have a full Upwork course, in which I go over in depth on how you can sell automations on Upwork, how you can optimize your profile, find the best jobs, how you can apply to the jobs, how to onboard clients, and how to deliver the work. And I also show you how you can do the exact same with cold email as well, so I have a full cold email course. Plus I show you how you can use the 2 highest leverage methods, which I see nobody talk about in this space, guys. Everyone talks about using Upwork to sell automations and using cold email, but nobody talks about the 2 highest leverage methods, which are by creating content and building an audience in platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and then leveraging this audience so you can sell them your automations. This way, you're not the one that is chasing the clients are actually coming to you and basically wanting to give you their money, so you are the one that builds them the automations. And these 2 courses go super in depth, guys. If I open up the YouTube course, for example, this is almost a 3-hour course in which I show you everything that you need to know about YouTube. And I'm actually very qualified to tell you this, because I have worked almost half of the biggest AI YouTubers that you see. So if you go and ask your favorite AI YouTuber, have you worked with Damian, there is like a 50% chance he's going to say yes. And I help them grow their YouTube channel and help them in short form platforms as well, like Instagram and TikTok. But I do gotta say, like, my expertise is on YouTube. And honestly, if you see this course, you will not need to watch any other video about growing on YouTube and leveraging this audience to sell your automations to them. But that's not all, guys. Because over here, I also have a full AI SaaS roadmap course, in which I show you the full strategy of how you can build your own AI SaaS. And to prove that this strategy actually works, I'm about to start the Build a $1 million SaaS series, in which I build a $1 million SaaS completely from scratch without having any idea how to code, and I'm documenting the whole process exclusively inside the community. And guys, this is not like a side project I'm doing just for the community. This is an actual business that I have wanted to build for a very long time, and I just thought about making it a series inside the community as well. So if you want to get access to this and all of these other courses along with all the assets for every video that I make, so you can just simply come over here and find the video you want to download the JSON from, including this video that we did right now. You can simply come over here and find the video, simply click on the JSON file over here, click on download, and then come back over to N8N, click on these three dots over here and click on import from file, simply upload the file you just downloaded, and the whole automation will populate for you automatically, which means that you basically won't have to do anything. So if you want to get access to all of this content and a community of 150 people that are interested in AI and most importantly making money with it, you can click the link in the description and come and check out the community, and I will be waiting for you inside. But now YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video in which I built a $1 million app using just Lovable and N8N. So make sure you go and watch that next, and I will see you over there.